Emily has proclaimed that what she is doing is not witchcraft, that it is spiritual warfare, that it is granted by the glory of God. I find that to be very misleading and ignorant. Does she even understand what a spiritual warrior is? I have done blogs and a video a long time ago about spiritual warfare. This term was corrupted by the Christians, and it doesn't mean what it originally meant. Spiritual warfare originates with the Tibetan Buddhists. They fought against the greatest threat and cause of suffering in their beliefs: ignorance. A spiritual warrior worked to educate himself and others. And this makes perfect sense because a more enlightened person would make better decisions and not suffer as much. On that standard, Emily, you are not qualified to be a spiritual warrior. To be enlightened is to be knowing. So the more that a person knows, the more enlightened that person is. So let's take another look at Emily, and she lives in a state of utter ignorance. She is the darkness that we must fight against. So what does a Christian spirit warrior do? Well, they attack people from other religions and other groups. There are groups like the NAR, the New Apostolic Reformation, that attack other groups and use prayer bombs as their weapon. Groups of Christians would gather and do something like a prayer walk and do a mass prayer. DC40 is such a group. And I want to read to you the prayer they sent out a few years ago to a group of pagans opposing their actions. Father, through the faith of your Son and through the power of his blood, we come on behalf of those who would curse us. Because of their actions toward us, we have legal spiritual access and we take it. We release perfect blood-covered love into the core of your being. May eternal light flood your hearts this day with a revelation of who you really are, and more importantly, who God really is. We also pray that this revelation will dismantle and refute all arguments, theories, reasonings, and every proud and lofty thing that sets itself against the true knowledge of God. Your ladder has been placed on the wrong wall. We call you to your right mind through the finished work of the cross. You see, there is no DC40 prayer war. It is finished. You just haven't come to the truth of it yet. However, if you are reading this, it is too late. We release the arrow of blood-covered truth and convicting power of the Holy Spirit into the core of your being, and release grace for you to see in Jesus' mighty name. Wow, talk about hate. Emily declared that magic is alright as long as you do it in God's name. While these Christian spirit warriors named off the trendy and invoked spiritual warfare, arrow of blood-covered truth. But Christian magic does no harm. Now, if you remember my previous video that one of Emily's books classified all witches' spells as negative. This is the same way of thinking that started the burning times. Like hell, if I'm going to allow that to happen again. Spiritual warfare is religious warfare. Christian spiritual warfare is about domination. There is no living next to spiritual warriors of the Christian ilk. You have to be able to defend yourself or be walked upon by these people. Emily has called people out as fake witches. She has no form of kindness in her. She would use this concept and step on you because she needs power over people. Christianity is the bloodiest religion in the history of man, and it is because of thinking like this. I am highly bothered by the difference of Buddhist spirit warriors and the Christian spirit warriors. Too bad Emily never studied what is she sorry. Too bad Emily never studied what she is promoting. Now Emily talks about reading biblical definition of witchcraft. Well, I have done my fair share of research as well. There is something that the Bible makes clear. There is no exception in performing magic. Any and all magic is forbidden under the Christian religions. Emily's feeble attempt to create an exception only proves one thing. She is willing to ignore the Bible when it fits her needs. The twit openly read the very Bible verses that says not to perform any forms of magic. Then she gave the typical fundamentalist excuse. There are several Christian websites that state no form of magic is allowed. They didn't call it witchcraft, they called it magic. Again, Emily, you are using one group's interpretation of the Bible and Christianity as guidelines for everyone else. And that makes Emily a pathetic person as well. It reminds me of the times I made Christians run out of the chat rooms. I was told that I wasn't Christian and so I was going to go to hell. I responded by telling the Christians that they were going to hell for eating a hamburger. Well, they would tell me that eating a hamburger wasn't a sin. Well, I fired back at, well, eating beef is a sin and thus they were going to go to hell. You know, they think that they are so darn awesome and they say, well, they aren't Hindu, so it isn't a sin. And I laughed and told them, well, I'm not a Christian, so why would I go where the bad Christians go? You don't like it when I impose silly rules on you, keep your religion's silly rules to yourself. Then they generally get quiet or just run out of the room. It's quite funny. But anyway, Emily, you're thinking that this one Christian concept that you are following this week has put you in a position of power. It has done nothing of the sort. You are simply being a loudmouthed little bitch that is trying to impose your religious standards on everyone else. There are numerous Christian belief systems that view magic differently. Your one grouping doesn't represent all of Christianity. So this is you not respecting other people's religious beliefs. It is open season again on your sorry ass. It has been requested that your face be attached to a steaming pile of shit. Well, I'm going to be working on that as soon as this video is uploaded. I do want to add this point as well. In the history of man, there have been many people that have used doing it for God mentality to rationalize very evil acts. There is the man that killed an abortion doctor in a church and declared that he did it for God. He felt that he was saving lives, and so it was all right to kill an unarmed man in church. There was the mother of 5 kids in Texas that drowned her kids because she thought there was a demonic presence in the home. Well, the Crusades is a series of wars fought by Christian spiritual warriors. How many thousands and possibly millions of people died because of all those crusades? There are ministers that have molested young boys and use the excuse that they were doing it for God. Somehow molesting a boy is a spiritual practice, and that is disgusting. So Emily telling us that by doing it for God makes it all right really doesn't mean anything, because it's just an excuse. Thank you. Video 3 is coming up soon.